When Peter first encountered this snake, he knew that he had found something special, but his curiosity quickly got the better of him. Because when Peter got too close to the snake, he was bitten by it. But that seemed to be none of the concern of the ranger that was with him. The only thing that seemed to matter to him was that Peter was never supposed to see this snake in the first place. Peter was in a complete state of panic. He had no idea where the ranger was bringing him, and his hand was still bleeding profusely. He had no idea if the snake was poisonous or not. All he knew was that he needed to go to the hospital, but he was pretty sure that that was not where the ranger was heading. The ranger had not spoken a word to him after he told Peter that he was never supposed to see the snake. And by the way, the ranger pulled him into his truck afterward. Peter knew he was in trouble, but he could barely think about that now due to the pain of the snake bite. Peter was crying out for help, but when the ranger finally reached his destination, Peter quickly fell completely silent again. But what was the explanation for the strange-looking snake? Why was Peter never supposed to see it, and where had the ranger taken him? Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. And even though Peter was very aware of this fact, he was not really keeping an eye out for snakes around him. He was traveling through the forests, but that was not supposed to be normal snake territory. It was way too cold here for them. But again, this is obviously not any other snock. Luckily for Peter, even though he was paying close attention, this snake was almost impossible to miss. Nearly everything around him was green and brown, which would normally be perfect camouflage for a snake. But the animal was actually strangely brightly colored. Peter did not know much about snakes, but he remembered that it was very rare for animals to have these kinds of color patterns, as it took away their ability to hide. The only kind of animal that still looks like this is normally very poisonous, and they use the colors as a warning. The snake itself did not seem to have much interest in moving. It had crawled out from its cover and had just nestled itself right in the path that Peter intended to take. Not wanting to take any risk, Peter decided to turn around and head back to his hotel. But he was anything but done with this animal. On his way back to the town, Peter decided to make a post about the snake on his social media. He did not expect anybody to know anything about it, but just thought of it as a bit of fun. He knew that his ex-girlfriend loved animals, so maybe he could get her attention back by posting the picture. He also shared the name of the forest where he had encountered it, but this was precisely what made the post stand out to people outside of his followers. And these people were not happy with what they saw. But Peter had no time to really question it or re-upload the post, as he was suddenly called by an unknown local number. Strange as he knew, nobody was here and had only arrived 2 days ago. Who could have his number? The voice on the other end of the line sounded deep and stern. He told Peter that he was calling on behalf of the local wildlife protection authorities and that they had to talk to him. Peter was startled by the situation that was happening now, and he was also wondering how this man was able to get some phone number. This situation is getting weirder each minute. They had seen the picture he had posted of the strange snake and wanted to ask him a couple of questions about it. Peter was confused, but the man made it clear that he did not have much of choice. Peter was supposed to wait at the entrance to the forest, and there a ranger would meet up with him. Peter was then supposed to take the ranger to the exact spot where they encountered the snake. He fully cooperates with the ranger, as Peter could already hear from the voice that you can't mess with this ranger. Peter was nervous, as could be making his way over to the forest. He had no idea the trouble he was in, but he could already feel like something was not right here. Peter just had a nasty gut feeling that this might not end well for him. The ranger arrived just minutes after Peter did, and did not even greet him or introduce himself. He just looked him straight in the eye and told Peter to start walking. Peter felt fairly pressured by the ranger, and he didn't dare to argue with him. Maybe a bit foolishly, Peter decided to get close to the snake to get a good look at the animal. Seeing as the snake was still in the same spot, he feared that it might have died there. But that was not the case at all, as out of practically nowhere, the snake latched out at him. It all went so quick that Peter barely had time to process what happened. He felt a stinging pain in his hand and slowly started seeing blood pour out of it. He quickly started getting lightheaded as he turned back to the very angry-looking ranger. This entire situation didn't look good for Peter. He was short of breath and had intense pain in his arm, but it seemed like the ranger didn't care about this. Peter begged to bring him to the hospital, but the ranger simply didn't care. As Peter and the ranger walked on to a secret place of the ranger, Peter felt worse and worse. He really needed to go to a hospital because he felt like he was dying. He begged the ranger again to go to the hospital, but the ranger said, "We're almost there." But where? They are in the middle of the forest. After what felt like forever, but was probably only 10 minutes, they arrived at a big and modern-looking building hidden deep in the forest. Peter was sure that this place was not on the map. It did look that maybe people there could help Peter. The ranger immediately took Peter to another man who was sitting outside on his laptop. Peter wanted to go outside to get some medical help, but he didn't have a choice, as he was put to the table in front of the man. Peter could barely understand the man, let alone answer properly all the questions the man was asking Peter. He really needed medical help here, and Peter's body gave up and he passed out. He was barely alive. Suddenly, Peter woke up in a bed in a room that looked like he was in a hospital. He felt a lot better, so he seriously thought he might have dreamed everything about the ranger taking him to a secret hidden place. However, this turned out not to be the case. Peter was handcuffed to the bed, and the joy of feeling better immediately turned to sheer panic. Why was he handcuffed, and where is he? So many questions went through his head, but Peter knew that he had to get out of here. Fast! The ranger started questioning Peter right away about how he got into that forest, where he lie-fed specifically, and whether or not he has family. The ranger's questions initially struck Peter as absurd, but when he added, "We can't let you go," Peter realized why he asked those kind of questions. After the unpleasant conversation with the ranger left the room, and Peter knew right away that he had to get out of here as soon as possible if he wanted to stay alive or go back to his normal life. Peter was handcuffed to the bed, so he had to find something which could help him to release him from the handcuffs. Maybe something like tweezers or a hard object which he could use to smash the handcuffs. He looked around and there he saw it. A pair of tweezers appeared in a drawer on the nightstand. This was the ideal way to unlock the handcuffs. He kept attempting, but all of a sudden he heard a noise coming down the hallway toward the room. Is that the ranger? Fortunately, it turned out to be nothing. Probably just someone walking past his door. So Peter goes ahead, and after minutes of struggling, the handcuffs finally came off. Okay, what now? Peter thought. He has to be careful here. As Peter was carefully walking through the corridors, he suddenly sees the other man who was asking questions before he fainted away. He seemed very concerned about something and was rushing to a room. Peter wondered if he should just leave or maybe find out what this secret place had to hide. He might uncover something big here, but it might also risk his entire life. Peter felt he was in a dilemma. What should he do? Peter eventually decides to follow the man and investigate what all this mysterious place is hiding. It is apparently something no one knew about, considering it is completely hidden in the woods. Peter could possibly uncover something big. After following the man, they came to a hallway that was overwhelmingly crowded with people shouting all sorts of things. It seemed like something was wrong here, and Peter was determined to find out what this was. Peter wants to go into the room to see what's going on, but he can't do this with these kind of clothes he's wearing now. He has to change into normal clothes. After looking around, he comes across a room where staff clothes were hanging. Peter quickly goes to the room and changes himself into normal clothes. Now he won't stand out from the rest because it was overwhelmingly crowded, so now nobody would notice his presence. Peter thought to himself, "All right, it's time to enter the room." If even agents were saying these things, Peter wondered what it was because it would be something big. When Peter saw some agents from the place, he knew he had to keep away of them. In order to obtain all the information, he went some other agents. Peter was searching for some officers who seemed like they would be simple to persuade. He noticed that Arthur appeared to be feeling a little anxious. If some officers noticed this, the game would be over, but he was just about to pick the agents when he saw the other wordly find. It would be something Peter would never forget. They had taken the whole creature with this kind of egg. It looked like it was going to burst, so why were all these agents discussing it? They had to make sure that this egg was carefully saved. The sound coming out of the egg then intensified and the egg began to move. It looked like something was coming out of it. Everyone stopped discussing and went to the egg, and then something amazing happened. It produced a strange snake, but in the end, it was discovered that it was harmless, so everything turned out well. There is no need to hide anything, but the government shouldn't be so paranoid about some things. There's nothing you need to cover up for civilization.